Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you are attracted to certain people or where your ideas and thoughts about sex and about love and about relationships actually stem from? I think most of us assume that some of these things are deeply personal, like it's a decision that we make, how we show up in the world or who we choose to love or who we feel attracted to. But according to Ericka Hart's new book, Nasty Work, Resist Systems, Explore Desires, and Liberate Yourself, which was published, I think, in 2025, I think it was published in 2025, argues that all these are actually political decisions. I read this book recently. I listened to it as an audiobook and it made me really, really have deep thoughts. And I thought, who else can I talk to about it but with you? So this book is partly memoir and partly sex education and also partly social critique. The author, Ericka Hart, is a Black, non-binary, queer, disabled, cancer survivor, sex educator, and uses personal story, very open, is very vulnerable, something that I deeply admired, to bring across message. And I think whether you agree with what's saying or not, it's actually a book. It's definitely a book that will challenge how you think and might actually influence you to think differently. It's a great discussion book too. So this book explores the idea that our understanding of sexuality, of desire, of gender, of relationship, and even of our bodies has been shaped a lot by systems like white supremacy and colonialism and patriarchy and capitalism and, of course, ableism. The author argues that this system they don't just influence laws or institutions. They actually they shape our lives. They shape our internal lives. And we actually don't think about it. The title refers to the difficult but very necessary conversations that need to be had in the work of unlearning these harmful beliefs and also in a way to reclaim our pleasure and our own autonomy and even just encourage authentic connection. And I think from what I've read reviews about these, the people who went in expecting it to be these traditional sex guide, I think because of the title and because of the work that the author does, might be disappointed or are disappointed because I think maybe they're expecting like tips or techniques. But this book actually just puts the question to the readers. It makes the readers question where their beliefs actually came from, where all these things that they stand two toes down on came from in the first place. What I liked about this book really is the author's voice, how they use honesty and confidence and, like I said, vulnerability, and how they weave all this together with their personal experiences, their life lessons, and like a broader social commentary, because they comment about different, let's just say, trendy topics at the moment. And they bring this together into the memoir elements make it very, very, it grounds the book. So it's not too academic, I think, too academic, which is something you expect from nonfiction book. It's not purely academic. The memoir side of it gives it a more personal touch that makes it more relatable. Another thing that I appreciated about this book is just how inclusive it is, the discussion, and how the author intentionally brings all these marginalized communities or different groups like fat people, disabled people, chronically ill people, people who belong to queer communities. They bring all these different voices into conversations about sexuality and about pleasure. These are voices that are often overlooked or even silenced or even ignored in mainstream discussions about sex and about pleasure. So yeah, it was quite eye-opening. Makes me really think, like very thought-provoking also. And I also love how the author used like prompts at the end of every chapter to ask very genuine questions, interesting questions that makes you as the reader really think. I think I would probably use them as journal prompts from time to time to just weigh out and examine how far I've come on questions like which bodies do I find attractive and why? Why do I find certain bodies attractive and others not? Or like who taught me what beautiful looks like? Who is beautiful? This idea of beauty, where does it come from? Or even how much of our desire is personal, or how much of it is shaped by culture, and even about gender. Who decided what gender I am? Is it something that I decided by myself, or it's just a role that was already set out that I just found myself in? I think whether you agree with the author's answers, I think the questions that puts across make for very fascinating thoughts and discussions that are necessary. I think very necessary. I think this book will not be for anyone who is expecting like self-help or very practical advice or guide, or very a straightforward book about like sexual wellness. Because of the name and because of the author, I think this is not it, if that is what you're looking for. The book is much more interested in analyzing social systems than actually giving step-by-step guide or advice. It puts the ball in your court to do a lot of the thinking. It just prompts you, but then you need to do the work. The book also relies heavily on an intersectional social justice framework, which I think is very, very important. So readers who like already appreciate that perspective will likely connect with the arguments. Like, hopefully this is not the first time that you ever think about the intersectionality, where racism crosses with white supremacy, with patriarchy, with ableism, colorism, texture, all this. This should not be your first time encountering it. I think maybe some readers may disagree with some of the author's conclusions that brings across in the book, or maybe they would wish for like alternative viewpoints that maybe were not explored fully in this book. But I think it does not really matter. I think at the end of it, there's something new that you will get from it. And I think also maybe if you're looking for like a flowy narrative, this might not be it for you, because it feels very, I don't want to say choppy, but more of like an essay. Like every chapter is an essay, starts something new. Though I think maybe the last two chapters, you kind of feel like is repeating itself, and you already like, voice, you recognize voice. But they're almost like, it's as if you're reading different essays. So it might make, I don't know, the reading experience uneven, or the pacing uneven. I didn't mind. I didn't mind at all, because it meant that I could stop and pick up from where I left off. Like I didn't need to. Nothing is building on the next thing. They're just totally different ideas, different themes that are explored per chapter. I think that for me, the strongest pillar, let's say pillar of this book is not necessarily that it provides answers. I think what I see it trying to do, what I hope it does, is to just encourage anyone who reads this to ask better questions, to always be questioning things. I've been looking at things differently ever since I've read this book. It pushed me to examine assumptions, things that I've just been taking for granted, things that I never stopped to actually think about, like my ideas about beauty, about body, about my own body, about consent, about intimacy, about relationships, and even about just love itself. I think that it doesn't really matter. Well, I don't think it really matters if you agree, just like I said, with every argument that the author makes. I think the book actually succeeds in creating space for reflection and for conversation. And that is what makes a nonfiction book good, in my opinion. And it's something that is valuable when a nonfiction book does that or is able to do that. I would definitely recommend it. I think I gave it a 3.75 stars, if I'm not wrong, just because I think there's a chapter or two chapters where it goes into relationships, like friendships, relationships with people outside of romantic situations, that I think maybe because I was born and brought up in Kenya, that is not anything new to me. I do not know how people survive with just romantic relationships. The idea of nuclear family is something that I did not grow up seeing, and I think I don't even embody in my life at the moment. I mean, I am surrounded by love in all forms, and I think my children, my husband, we all know that there's more to life than romantic relationships. So I think those are parts that might work for someone who grew up in a really industrialized country. I think, like in the US, the author is American. I would recommend the book if you enjoy books that combine memoirs and cultural criticism, and books that are not like flowy. If you enjoy essays, this will be good for you. If you're interested in themes like feminism, white feminism, queer theory, about sexuality, about colonialism and intersectionality or social justice, then you will have a lot to engage with if you read this book. But on the other hand, if you're looking for like a practical guide or self-help book about pleasure and sex, or maybe like a beginner's guide on relationships and love, this might not be the book for you, unfortunately. This is in summary, a very thoughtful, a very thought-provoking, a very eye-opening, a very needed book. Even if some sections felt a bit dense or maybe even monotonous, I still really appreciated the author's work and vulnerability that he showed in this book. Let me know if you have read Nasty Work, and if you have, please let me know what were your thoughts. Did you agree with the author's perspectives? Was there something new that you learned? Was there a particular chapter that stood out to you? Let me know in the comment sections below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Or are there also books that you've read that are similar in themes to this? The author really names a lot of books. I am definitely going to get the physical copy because there are books that mention some that I already know about and are on my TBR, but also lots of new ones that I'm very interested in finding out about. And of course, if you like this review, if you enjoy such content, don't forget to like, comment, of course, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you know whenever I post a new video. Thank you for watching and happy reading. And of course, I'll see you in my next one. Bye.